Look at how freely you give yourself away. You bleed your time, your energy, and your attention into the hands of others, completely convinced that your endless availability makes you indispensable. But human nature does not reward the ever-present, it devours them. If you continue to offer everything for nothing, you will wake up one day to find that you have trained the world to treat you as entirely disposable. So ask yourself, are you actively playing the game, or are you just the piece being moved? You sit there in the quiet of your own space, staring at a screen, waiting for a reciprocity that never arrives. You have operated under a quiet delusion for most of your life, the belief that loyalty is a currency, and if you simply pay enough out, it will eventually return to you. You bought into the soft lie that virtue guarantees reward, but watch how they look at you. Watch how easily they step over your boundaries, not with malice, but with a terrifying, casual indifference. They do not value you because they do not have to. You have removed all friction from their lives. You have made yourself entirely predictable. In the brutal architecture of human psychology, value is not created by abundance. It is created by scarcity, by friction, by the very real threat of absence. Niccolo Machiavelli understood this cruel, unbending law of human nature perfectly. Men, he observed, are driven by a complex machinery of fear, necessity, and self-interest. When you remove necessity by always being there and remove fear by never pulling away, you strip yourself of all leverage. You become a utility, a permanent fixture in the room. Unnoticed until a light bulb burns out, and only acknowledged when you fail to provide the service they have grown accustomed to. Think about the subtle shifts in their tone when they need something from you, the slight impatience, the quiet presumption. They do not ask, they expect. And you, terrified of being perceived as difficult, swallow your exhaustion and say yes. Every time you do this, you are not building a deeper bond. You are wiring their neurological pathways to associate your face with zero-cost extraction. The tension you feel in your chest right now is not because they are ungrateful. It is because deep down, you are finally realizing that you handed them the knife. You built the cage you are currently sitting in. You gave them permission to devalue you the moment you decided your worth was tied to how useful you could be. The psychological collapse does not happen overnight. It is a slow, agonizing erosion of your self-respect. It starts when you begin to notice the stark asymmetry in your relationships. You remember the intricate details of their daily struggles. You rearrange your schedule for their emergencies. But when your sky falls, when you are standing in the ruins of a bad day, they are suddenly busy. They offer empty sympathies devoid of actual substance. In that hollow space, the cold truth of human mechanics begins to set in. Machiavelli wrote that it is much safer to be feared than loved, if one must choose. You have spent your life choosing to be loved, but you made a fatal miscalculation. You have mistaken use for affection. People do not respect what they can effortlessly consume. They consume it, discard the rind, and move on to what they must work for. You have watched others, people who give far less and demand far more, be treated with a bizarre, almost reverent respect. You have watched them receive the effort you bled yourself dry trying to earn. You comforted yourself by calling them selfish. But beneath your moral judgment, there is a sickening envy. They understand a fundamental law of the game you have been actively refusing to play. This is the exact moment the internal structure fractures. This is the realization that your moral superiority is nothing more than a psychological coping mechanism for your absolute powerlessness. You tell yourself you are a good person, using it as a shield against the humiliating reality of being used. But the world does not run on fragile concepts of fairness. It runs on power, perception, and the brutal economics of personal value. To increase your value, you must accept the terrifying reality that human beings are creatures of calculation. They will take whatever you offer until the cost becomes too high. You have made the cost zero. You are bleeding out from 1,000 tiny cuts of compliance. You participate in your own diminishment because the alternative, withdrawing into the cold silence, feels far too dangerous. It forces you to find out if they actually care about you, or if they only care about what you provide. That is the fear keeping you playing the servant. To seize control of the board, you must sever the emotional umbilical cord that ties your self-worth to their validation. You must cultivate what Machiavelli understood as the necessary coldness of the ruler's mind. This is not about becoming a tyrant, nor is it about adopting a persona of villainy. It is about reclaiming the sovereign territory of your own mind and energy. It begins with the strategic withdrawal, the deliberate, calculated introduction of absence. Stop being the first to text. Stop being the one to anxiously fill the dead air in the room. Let the pause stretch until it becomes suffocatingly uncomfortable for them. Let them feel the sudden, jarring void where your endless compliance used to be. When you pull back your energy, you alter the gravitational pull of the relationship. You force them to recalibrate their understanding of your worth. They will resist this shift. Human nature violently rejects the sudden loss of a free resource. They will probe your new boundaries, testing the perimeter to see if the old, pliable you is still hiding behind the walls. They will use guilt, feigned confusion, or uncharacteristic bursts of affection to reel you back in. This is the crucible. This is the exact moment your new reality is forged. You must observe their reactions not with anxiety, but with the detached, clinical curiosity of a scientist watching a predictable chemical reaction. You must learn the terrifying, beautiful art of the strategic no. A no that stands entirely on its own. A no not followed by frantic apologies or weak excuses, a single complete sentence. The silence that follows a firm boundary is the exact sound of your value increasing. People only respect what they cannot entirely control or predict. When they realize your time is a heavily guarded estate and no longer a public park, the power dynamics permanently shift. They begin to calculate the cost of their requests. They begin to treat you not as a disposable resource, but as a formidable entity. You must become deeply comfortable with being misunderstood. Except that in the process of taking control, some people will label you as cold or changed. Let them. Their discomfort is not your responsibility. It is merely a symptom of their lost leverage. You are stepping out of the warm, suffocating bath of submission and into the sharp, freezing air of absolute autonomy. There is no going back to the illusion. The veil has been permanently pulled away. You can now clearly see the invisible, tightly wound threads of leverage, dependency, and power that connect every human interaction. You know exactly why you have felt so drained for so long, and worse, you know exactly who handed them the knife. The question is no longer whether the game is being played around you. The game is always being played, in every room, in every conversation, in every subtle shift of eye contact. The only question left is whether you will continue to offer yourself up as a willing sacrifice, blindly hoping for a mercy that human nature is simply not designed to give. Look at your life as it stands right now. Look at the time you have left. You can feel the quiet, irreversible shift happening inside your chest. That heavy, undeniable realization that the only way to survive the board is to finally become the player.